A new rule for the fallen nobles of the Chaos Knights today. You can dedicate your knights to Chaos Gods, drop a Butcher's Bill through the enemy army to unlock even better abilities, and Khorne Knights are going to retain the power to chew straight through invul saves with their great big Reaper chainswords. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today we're talking about the latest Chaos Knight preview on Warhammer Community. The preview's rules a mechanic called Favour of the Dark Gods, and it seems that it allows you to dedicate your knights to various different allegiances, get a bunch of powerful and unique buffs, and then also gain more buffs if you manage to kill a whole bunch of enemy models. Quite a fun little mechanic, I think. Should be something good to differentiate them from the Loyalists. We still don't have any word on exactly when this new Chaos Knight army set's going to be coming out, or the new codexes, but it seems like it really can't be all that far away right now. We've seen a fair few previews already, and they are the next codexes to come out. While we're on the subject of Knights, I thought I'd just very briefly mention the Chaos Knights channel giveaway that's going to be happening in early May. I run similar giveaways every month, but this one's going to be for 2 copies of the Chaos Knight Army box, 1 to 2 different people. The predicted release being early May. Obviously if things are delayed a bit beyond that, then there might just be a little bit of a delay in dispatch, but I'll certainly get them to you. There's 2 equal ways to enter, links down in the video description, either supporting the channel Patreon for any amount and helping keep these Warspets Tactics videos coming, or supporting via social media, subscribing to the YouTube channel, liking the Facebook page, and then you enter the draw on the 1st of May. A post appears on the Facebook page, and you enter with any photo of a 40k miniature or imagery alongside your name and date in the photo, the last bit just to help ward off Facebook bots a bit. Then all the entries are put into a random number generator, equal chances for everyone, and it's announced on a channel update around the 4th of the month. Should be a fun set for Chaos Knights anyway. You get the Abominant and the 2 War Dogs, as well as the new codex. As I mentioned, links are down in the video description if you're interested, but let's get on with taking a look at the new rules. So Favour of the Dark Gods is a new rule for Chaos Knights, and it would appear to be the main way that you can get the keywords Khorne, Slaanesh, Tzeentch or Nurgle on your knights, and there's even a nice option to go Chaos Undivided as well. Quite nice to make Undivided Chaos an equal option, it often can get overlooked. Apparently each one of these 15 different favours that you can choose from will have different points cost. It depends on the size of the knight, you pay less for War Dogs than you do for Abhorrents or Tyrants, so it does remain to be seen whether or not these are going to be worthwhile upgrades. They could be anything from really useful for the points to completely underpowered. From the ones that they've previewed, it would appear that each one of these 15 different favours will each have an associated Chaos God with it, and as part of the rule you either gain the Khorne keyword, the Slaanesh keyword, or Pantheon Undivided. I'm going to guess just based on the numbers, that would probably mean 3 for each of the main deities and 3 for the Pantheon Undivided ones. Quite sensible to cost differently depending on the different sizes of knight. Most things are going to be worth far less on a War Dog than a Knight Tyrant, and it sounds like Abhorrent class knights are going to be the Chaos version of the Knights Questoris from the Imperial Knights. It seems that for some reason in this codex they seem to have given every single weapon and war gear update a different name to the Imperial ones. For example, the Plasma Decimator becomes an Ectoplasma Decimator when you're in Chaos Knights. I think it's kind of a fun touch, but seeing as they're basically the same bits of war gear, I think they really could have just kept them the same, just so as to cause less confusion. It appears that each one of these favours grants you 3 different things. First the keyword, as we've mentioned, then you get an upgrade of some sort just for buying the upgrade in, and then you've got the option to reach a kill tally to get yet another buff on top of that, which should trigger later in the game if you've hopefully killed a fair bunch of stuff. That favoured ability is unlocked via the table on the right. War Dogs need to reach a kill tally of 5, Abhorrents need 10, and Tyrants need 15. And just looking at that, it looks like the Abhorrents might have the easiest job in reaching that tally. Now they have been really quite vague as to what actually gets you points on that tally. It's not impossible that it could just be for killing individual models, though that would have a massive swing and really help the anti-horde knights a lot more than the anti-tank ones, and it would make those tallies really hard to unlock against certain armies, say if you're playing against elite custodies. My guess, based solely on that table and how I would do it, is that each time you kill a model, you'll probably get the amount of points towards your tally as the wounds that it had. So say if you kill a Space Marine that had 3 wounds, then you get 3 points towards that tally. It means that by killing something fairly important like an enemy tank, you'll probably get there straight away, and I think that would be a good way to balance out hordes of chaff against really elite durable things with a lot of protection. Finally, as with a lot of these points cost type upgrades, you can't duplicate them or have more than one on a knight, but seeing as it sounds like there'll be 3 per Chaos Deity allegiance, then you might be able to get 3 different big core knights in an army, say. And I guess even if you did want to make a monogod devoted army, you could maybe have a few Khorne ones and Chaos Undivided ones. Hopefully that way you're not angering Khorne too much by worshipping any of his weakling peers. So that seems to be the gist of it. Let's take a look through the three that they've previewed. First up, for the Knights of Khorne we have Blood Shield, and this one seems to be a bit of a tweaked and updated version of the relic the Khornate target, interestingly meaning that there might be the potential to stack this with other relics to make a super blendy knight in combat. First up, the upgrade gives you the Khorne keyword, and interestingly there was the thing that I was expecting for the Knight Abominants. Basically Khorne doesn't like Psykers, so Psyker Knight Abominants aren't going to be welcome, so like the Demon Princes and a fair few other Chaos Codexes, they also get a melee buff. The Knight Abominant will be hitting with +1 weapon skill and +1 attack, so kind of similar to the equivalent of an Imperial Knight Gallant. That's going to be really quite a meaningful combat boost, and depending on how strong its melee weapons are, that could be a really interesting side grade that might be worth it just as much as a psychic spell. I guess we'll have to wait and see just how powerful the Knight psychic powers are. We don't really have any details as to what they're going to do next. They could easily be so powerful that you just don't want to give them up, but it's quite good that Khorne just aren't going to be fighting with a flat disadvantage with that model. Otherwise though, the Blood Shield works very similarly to the Khornate target in the previous one. It's a once per game ability during the fight phase, and you get to turn off invuls both for yourselves and for the opponent. I guess that might be a bit more of an implication that Chaos Knights do get an invul save in combat now, but I'm not entirely certain of this. The old Khornate target rule had the same wording. I guess it's still a big deal for some of the Forge World Knight variants, like the Questor Megara or Styrex. Even if it does hurt your own invuls though, this really is a huge deal. A lot of the most powerful melee units in 40k have 4+ invuls these days, and when you've got AP -4 Reaper Chainswords, it might feel that they go into waste. This could easily double the knight's damage dealing in a single round of combat. If it's cheap enough, this still looks absolutely excellent for war dogs or medium-sized knights, particularly if you stack it with a bunch of other combat upgrades, meaning that hopefully they can chew through just about anything in a round of combat. Interestingly, the favoured ability, if you do chew through a whole bunch of wounds or models, means that you can do it all over again. I guess it could be slightly diminishing returns, as once you've made contact with the enemy, there's a good chance they might just kill you back in return, or it might be too late in the game to really make a big difference, but at least in theory this one should be somewhat easy to activate, provided you've activated it once already. Hopefully you've killed a fair amount of stuff, and I quite like the idea of charging up your blood shield again so you can do it all over again with the souls of the things that you've smashed. Depending on the points, this one seems absolutely great. It looks like it could be a really strong choice on a melee Chaos Knight build with a fighty Relic and Warlord trait. Next up, for Slaanesh, we have a Subjugator Machine Spirit. This one's got an interesting bit of lore where apparently it's drawn down from a Subjugator Titan, and a broken and corrupted Machine Spirit from that God Machine has been put to work in a fallen Chaos Knight. This one grants you the Slaanesh keyword, and it might be interesting to see what other options that it gives you for these keywords. It might be very relevant for certain relics, stratagems, and warlord traits that you can take, as well as just these abilities. As might be expected for Slaanesh, this one gives you really quite a lot of mobility options, and it seems to be one that's a bit more tailored towards war dogs. For the big knights, it allows you to advance and shoot as if stationary. That could be really quite a big one for knight tyrants, getting their colossal firepower exactly where it's needed, particularly the Valiant pattern, which needs to get close. If there's any Chaos Knight weapons that get a big power boost if they remain stationary, it'll also be relevant for them. It also gives you fall back and shoot as if stationary. That's going to be irrelevant on the Titanic Knights, but good on war dogs. I guess maybe could be worse for something like a Moirax or Helverin pattern war dog, something with 2 guns and gives it immunity to being locked up. Then if you do reach your kill tally, then you gain a couple of extra buffs, including advance and charge and fall back and charge, both of which will be a bit more helpful say if you're using a mixed role knight. I guess by the time it's triggered it might be a little bit irrelevant, as the knight might already have closed in enough for it not to matter too much about the threat range increase. But I guess just theoretically, if you could advance a knight and then shoot with it in the shooting phase, say with a melter cannon, kill an enemy vehicle if it does increase the tally like the way I suspect it does, and then suddenly be able to charge as well and double down on the amount of carnage you can do. Definitely all a bit theoretical, we'll have to see exactly how these favoured abilities trigger and the rules for bumping up your kill tally. You also get to fall back and charge as well, which is irrelevant for the knights as they already have the rule, but again I guess that could situationally help out the war dogs. I'd guess that this one might be a bit cheaper than the Blood Shield one. It does seem like a pretty handy upgrade for a gunline knight though. Extra movement means better choice of targets, or hiding back from the enemy's guns better. Finally, we've got a Chaos Undivided one, Blessing of the Dark Master. This one's again very interesting, and it gives you a Pantheon Undivided Knight keyword. In the lore, this one is basically Be'lakor's one, and if you saw those previous previews from White Dwarf, this is the one that an allied knight to Be'lakor's Army of Renown must take. It can't take any of the others. My guess would be that there'll be another 2 Pantheon Undivided ones, but they won't be Be'lakor specific. This one's really quite a potent defensive one though. Blessing of the Dark Master means that you can't reroll hits, wounds or damage rolls against this knight, a really powerful defensive buff depending on what's shooting. It hurts any gun line that's relying on powerful character auras, things like captains or chapter masters, things that reroll wounds in combat like Space Marine Lightning Claws, command point rerolling failed wound rolls or big damage results, or innate army buffs, say for example like a Tau Hammerhead which rerolls a hit roll and the Tau Sept which rerolls a wound roll. You go from something like an 80% chance of converting a railgun hit to something that's less than 50%. Again, if this one is cheap enough to be worth it, it could be a really easy pickup and seems like a massive durability boost for just about any knight. I would keep it in perspective though, it is only going to be accessible to one knight within the army. I guess if you've got massive buffed up gunline things with a ton of rerolls, they're best off just shooting at another knight and leaving this one to the things without buffs. Finally, its favoured ability is also a very good one. If you reach your helpful kill tally, then it means that unmodified hit rolls of 1 to 3 will always fail against the bearer, both at range and in melee. Of course, that is dependent on you actually getting the kill tally done, so I suspect it's not going to happen until turn 2 or 3 at earliest. But again, that's a very helpful debuff that really hurts high ballistic skill armies like Custodies or say characters in combat, the two bits together essentially being the Sadath of Light for Harlequins, except on one big shadowy knight that's blessed by Be'lakor. If you can activate both of them, then you're going to have a far tougher knight. I feel like this is usually going to be strong on just about any knight that you build, maybe particularly good on something like a Tyrant, something that your opponent is likely to be wanting to use special reroll abilities to try and take down. Overall, I do quite like these abilities. They seem like a fun way to actually really represent the Chaos Gods faction specific options, and they're going to be another interesting way where you can build up different Chaos Knights. I think it's pretty awesome to have this layered on the same Chaos Knight with things like relics, warlord traits, and the faction buffs. It's going to be fun to theorycraft what sort of crazy builds that you can come up with. Out of those three, it seems like they're all useful but not stupidly overpowered. I guess we'll see how they combine with the other stuff though. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and if you've enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, where I'll certainly be keeping any news of Knights or Chaos Knights coming, and review the Codex in full once it's out. Finally, if you have been enjoying the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention the Auspex Tactics Patreon page, which is in the video description below. As I mentioned earlier in the video, that's one of the ways that you can enter to win the Chaos Knights giveaway happening at the start of May, and as well as that, you're helping keep the videos on the channel coming. You get to see certain videos early and vote in polls as to what sort of things come next. Feel free to check it out down in the video description if you're interested. In any case, an absolutely enormous thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.